everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Terry McMacken, a local resident, and for the past few election cycles, I've been hosting conversations like this with candidates. The goal is simple, to give people a chance to know the person behind the campaign. This isn't a debate or a got you video. It's a conversation, and by the end of the video, my hope is that you have a better sense of who this candidate is, their background, their priorities, and how they approach leadership. The spirit of this conversation is one of curiosity and intentionality, really digging into the nuance and context of why someone chooses to put their name on a ballot and what they hope to accomplish. I've prepared some questions that the candidate received in advance, but we're going to follow the flow of the conversation, and every single candidate has received an invite. If you have any questions after the interview, I encourage you to reach out to the candidate directly. And with that said, thanks for joining us, and we're going to get started. So, hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Terry.
It's very nice to actually meet you for the first time because we haven't met. So I feel like this is going to be a big discovery.
Yeah, hoping so.
Yeah, yeah. So why don't you start by, telling us a little bit about yourself, your connection to the community and what led you to run for municipal office?
So I'm Jonathan. I've been in this community for almost 25, 26 years now. My parents brought me back here when I was about eight or so for grade five, and just felt like home ever since. I have a young family right now. I have a son that's 4 years old. He's just turned four a few weeks ago. He loves being out here. He loves seeing all the deer in the fields and the cows. This has been a great thing for him, and I'm hoping to continue making more roots here. Um, my biggest thing when I was growing up was when I was younger, I would go to my grandparents' blueberry farm out in Elgin. Faye and Raymond Steves. They lived just on the hill there. We'd always come out, go in the blueberry fields, make those memories. I remember riding with my grandfather in his truck out to the blueberry fields. And I'm hoping to make some similar memories with my son.
Four is such a busy age. I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it's like I remember that chaos. It's fun though. I think it's fun.
Oh, it's lots of fun. Keeps you on your toes.
And it's good for them to have all of that space to just run around and be kids. So four, are they starting school in September?
No, the following year.
The following year. Okay, so you still have one more year of chaos. I promise you, once they go to school, things do start calming down a little bit in different ways.
I hope so. He's a handful.
I bet, I bet. So maybe you can tell me then, I think I kind of heard from your last answer, you've got your roots here, you make some memories and good experiences. What's your motivation for running for council and why now?
Honestly, my son, he's what I is pushing me. I want to give him a better world left behind, and I want to help bring about a more positive experience for everyone. I know communication's been a really big thing recently, and I'd really like to be able to help fix that problem.
I like that. And I feel like having kids as the motivation, that's a really good one. And I mean, it was for me, when I ran for council, I had a 5-month-old baby
Oh,
and then
wow.
had my second child while serving. So that, passion for making the community better for your own kids, but also making it better for everybody else, I feel like that's really respectable. And I think that's a really good motivation.
Thank
Um,
you.
so why don't you tell me a bit about maybe your life experiences or your career? Is there any kind of crossover there? Anything you feel like might have prepared you for a potential role in municipal government?
Honestly, my position right now with Midland, I deal with a lot of problem solving, process improvement, dealing with hard decisions. I feel like the last 3 years have really prepared me for that in an effort to improve things a little bit.
That's great. And I like that you mentioned the problem solving and the hard decisions because should you get elected, that's all the stuff that's going to end up in your lap, right? People are going to come to you with their problems and they want you to solve them. Um, is maybe what you can do then is explain to me, because that's obviously a responsibility of a counselor would be to take this information and to listen. But what do you feel is the most important responsibility of a municipal counselor?
Honestly, communication. It's the biggest thing for people getting new information, for you hearing about what's going on in the communities. Because if people don't tell you, you won't know. And that's where I feel like I've been really shining the last few weeks is being out in the community, talking to people, coming to their doors. I've been hosting coffee with your candidate at the local Tim's, opportunities for people to come out and voice your concerns. I think that's the biggest part.
I joke that if you want anyone to know anything, you go to Tim Hortons and shout out to those guys that sit in the corner and you tell them something and everyone will know. It's like the small town telephone, right? Like hanging out at
Really, though.
the Tim Hortons. And I feel like that's a really authentic method of communication, right? Is that one to one. And when you live in a small community, you could realistically talk to every single person in the community, eh?
Oh, definitely. I know it's a bit of a challenge with how spread out we are, but I've been really trying to get to everybody.
That's awesome. And I bet people really appreciate your effort to do that because campaigning is a lot of work. And especially when you have a young child, you have a job, like how many hours do you think you're putting in?
I'd say 3 hours a day currently, after work, a bit during work, and most of my weekends, just preparing and going out and meeting people.
That's commitment right there. Respect. I've done it too. I know how much work it is, and I feel like enough people don't appreciate, the work that goes into campaigning. So that's really awesome. You mentioned communication being a priority of yours, and this has always brought up good conversation so far in these interviews, is when we're talking about communicating what is your role and what isn't your role, because there are three different levels of government. They all have different responsibilities, but you are the person that is most accessible to people. So you're going to have people come up to you with issues that really have nothing to do with, your position municipally. But what do you feel your role is in helping to educate these people? And also, what's your response when they come to you?
Honestly, I feel like more of an ambassador where you'll hear their problems, see what's going on, and then decide which level is best for them and then help them along the way. Whether it be showing them where they can go to get more information about the subject they're concerned with, or actually finding phone numbers with them and calling for them. I feel like as a counselor, you're there to represent the people, and if they bring you problems, I think you should be involved.
Yeah, and there's actually quite a bit that you can do, right? Like you might not be able to get them a family doctor,
No,
but you might be able to connect them to the MLA that that could. Or I know in my role, like I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of letter writing and communications with different levels of government, and I found what was really helpful for a lot of people is kind of doing that work for them. Like if you have the time, draft them up a little email, be like, copy and paste this, send it to this person. You can tell them that I sent you. And sometimes that really makes a difference for people.
yeah, definitely. Like help guide them.
I like that you use the word ambassador. I feel like that's a word I haven't heard yet in these interviews, but it's true. Like you've given a good description of what someone, in your position would be doing should they get elected.
Definitely.
Kind of on the communication point, um, people are communicating in all kinds of ways. One of them being social media, which can be a cesspool of nasty and venting. Maybe you can talk to me a little bit about how, should you be elected, would you plan on dealing with this? Like I know my method is if it can't be solved on social media, which 99% of things can't, comments go off because you're just providing a platform for basically people to be completely unproductive and not even get an answer to their problem. But should you be elected, social media is a way that people are going to reach you and poke you. Like, do you have like some boundaries set up around that? Would you have a plan on how to deal with that?
Definitely. If it's constructive, I've actually been private messaging people in the comments, trying to get to better understand what's going on and help work it through with them. Um, and definitely would be setting some boundaries. I know I would love to be available 24/7. I just know that's realistic, but definitely getting back to people within 24 hours. I haven't announced this yet, but I do plan on continuing the coffee with your candidate. I was going to do 2 weekends a month if the wife allows me. And that way everyone knows where you can find your counselor. You know exactly when and where, and you can bring the issues directly to me.
I like that that makes you more accessible, right? Because one thing I've learned, like I'm a millennial, like everything's digital. You got to send me an email. I'm not answering my phone. Or if I see your name show up on my phone, I'm going to assume it's an emergency and somebody died. And then you can let it go to voicemail and I will not check it, right? So for me, it is that digital communication because I like having that record and reminder to reach back out to people. But one thing I learned moving here is just kind of based on the demographic, people really do want that face to face. And there's so much value in looking someone in the eye because I say it all the time that people are really hard to hate up close. You know, like you can yell at them online behind a screen or whatever, but then when you see them in person, it's just like, what do I do? You know?
It's like it's like seeing consequences of your actions almost. That's
Right,
how I describe
right.
it.
You'd be surprised how many people I've asked who've been angry about something, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to meet for coffee? Like,
Yeah.
we can talk about
Work it
this,
out.
you know?" And it's like, "Oh, no, no." I'm like, "Interesting." It's almost
Yeah.
like you don't care enough about the issue to actually work it out. But I like that
Mm.
you'd want to continue that coffee with the candidate because clearly it's working for you. Like people are coming out and they're asking you questions. Um, I feel like this kind of ties into the broader question of kind of how we're interacting in our community now. Like, I mean, I know since the pandemic, you know, people aren't talking as much face to face, and there's a whole lot of disconnect with our neighbors. How do you feel the role of a counselor, an elected official of any level, you know, their role in kind of bringing people together? Is that something that you feel is really important?
I feel like it should be one of the main goals as a counselor. You should be bridging people together. I remember growing up, coming out to Petty with my grandparents, and everyone knew each other, all made jokes and talked. I feel like the last few years since you mentioned COVID, it's really changed a lot. And I would love to get back to those roots of bringing communities together, have events at least once a month to bring people together, to talk, to meet, and regrow those roots together.
And I feel like small communities really do offer that on a more regular basis, whether that's like Legion suppers or, you know, something happening at the school or the church is hosting some kind of fundraiser. Like there are opportunities. And sometimes people just need a little push or they need a reminder that it's happening or, hey, I'm going to this, you should come with me. And I can think of an event that happened relatively recently where the turnout was amazing. And it was that millennial trivia night. Were you there?
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't.
Oh my gosh, it was full and people had so much fun. And I am gonna tease the Legion a bit because they didn't appropriately stock hard cider for the
No, no,
demographic that is known for our love of hard cider and you know craft beers and stuff. But that's okay. There was all kinds of other things and it was really fun. And I saw all kinds of people, not just millennials, but like all age range out there having fun and participating. It was really cool.
no, that's awesome. I'd love to continue those and get more involved with them. That's how we bring people together.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell me about an event or something that you attended recently and the reception towards that and the vibe.
The most recent one was the pancake breakfast at the Legion. I think it was a couple weekends ago, where I brought my family there, and just to meet a few people. I like the vibe. I feel like not as many people were there. Maybe just didn't know, but more of those kind of events. I like those, bringing people together, bring the family, and just have a good meal together.
Does the family like tagging along for things? I know sometimes I'd drag my reluctant husband out to things. He's an introvert. So he's like, you know, I support you. You do your thing, but I don't need to be there unless you really, really need me there. And now my kids are older, so I'm like dragging them to things. But, you know, does your family like go into those kinds of things?
Oh yeah, my son, he loves it. When I was out getting my signatures for the nominations, he came along to the doors and he loved meeting everybody. He was so happy. He tried to run into a few houses, but that's something else. But yeah, they love it.
How many little old ladies offered like cookies and stuff? Because I feel like that's a thing.
There was a couple.
They're like little campaign manager, right? Make sure they're fueled.
Oh yeah, and he kept pushing me to keep going. We want to meet more people.
Maybe you're raising a future politician.
I could be.
Yeah, or at least someone who's, really engaged in their community and, wants to be where the people are.
Definitely, and he loves talking. He does not stop.
Oh, that's so great. I love it. Um, so let's move into what you feel, and I'm going to say top three, but you can give me a couple, or if there's more than three, that's cool too. But what are like the top three issues you feel are facing the community? And of these issues, because you being one of the first ones I'm talking to who hasn't yet been elected as a counselor, is there anything that you're doing right now as like a citizen towards, these issues that you feel are important?
My top three issues would honestly be, and I've heard this from every door I've knocked, the roads. The roads are always an issue, especially living out here. They're not very well maintained, and I understand that it's not always the municipal level, but I feel like as a counselor, we should be pressuring the province to do better, not just doing patchwork, actually redoing the roads properly so that they're better for the future. The second biggest one would be communication. I know everyone's talked about it, it constantly comes up, but that's the main focus for a counselor, in my opinion. If people don't know what's going on, how are they going to feel that they're heard? How are they going to know what's going on in their community? And the third would definitely be affordability, honestly. I know that hasn't been a big topic right now, but with the cost of living crisis right now, we should be looking at other ways of finding more affordable housing and trying to bring those costs down any way we can.
That's awesome. I'd love to dig a little bit more into affordability because I feel like you're the first one to kind of mention that as an issue because like we know affordability, there's so many different things around that, right? And so many different levels of government have different responsibilities as it relates to affordability. So what do you feel like, as a person in local government, what do you feel like are some things that we could be doing?
Honestly, trying to find more creative ways to stretch the tax dollars and definitely not raising them while everyone else is struggling. I don't feel like that's a solution. I know some of the other big towns are renegotiating their tax rates so that they get more of the cut. I would honestly love to explore that for the town. That way we could stretch dollars a little bit better and not have to do that.
I think that's a really good answer because I, as somebody who does follow, politics very, very closely and follow local government right now, especially with the election, you'll get a lot of candidates that will make promises outside their actual scope, right? They're like, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it's like, you actually can't. Like, sure, you can advocate, but
Oh
don't be
yeah,
lying to people and saying that, you can change something that you actually can't. But I find that's a really interesting concept about looking at the taxes, maybe better use of the money so that we don't have to increase taxes, but also negotiating more of a cut. Like I feel like those are really interesting things that could be investigated and actually could be in your power should you get elected to do those kinds of things. So that's really neat.
definitely. I think it's something we should all explore.
With the topic of affordability, and this is kind of like an off question, you had mentioned a little bit about housing. Do you have any like innovative or interesting ideas about housing and what a municipality could do about it?
The first one that comes to my mind is I know they are double taxed if it's multiple units on the same property. I would like to look at tax breaks for people for doing that. I know whenever a rental comes up on the market here, it's quickly snatched up. And trying to find ways to attract people to do that here. We have lots of space. We could bring more people that want to have our same ideals.
When I was on council, we were reviewing the bylaws. And one thing that I made sure got in the bylaws, and keep in mind, this was before like COVID, this was before the housing crisis was really peaking, um, was a bylaw that permitted people to build garden suites on their property. And at the time, I did not know that I would be building my own mother a garden suite and would be, I think, the first one in the community to do it. But having something like that, it was a really tangible thing that I could do in my position was to make sure that our bylaws didn't actually restrict should somebody want to add, a garden suite to their property. So like there are things that we can do in that way. And I think there's also ways that we can make our municipality more appealing should somebody want to do that. So I really like that you bring that up. Did you want to add anything else about housing?
No, I know I think Riverview is one of the towns that actually did it, I believe, and they have grants for people. And from the last thing I heard, it worked really well.
Yeah, actually, I wonder if it was Riverview. We gave a tour to a lady who knew that we were doing this garden suite project. I know she wasn't out of Petitcodiac, but I provided her just like the copy and paste. This is the bylaw that we're using. Feel free to give it to your municipality. But they were talking about doing the same thing. So I feel like they're starting to gain a little bit of popularity with that model, especially where our community is an older demographic, right? So like they don't want to stay in like their big homes that cost a lot to heat and they want to downsize, but they still want to be close to family. And then you have all of their kids that are like, we can never buy a house because everything's too expensive. So I feel like it's a win-win.
Definitely, I would be open to it.
Well, if you need to build a little house, call me because we figured it out with YouTube videos and neighbors across the street who knew how to build stuff. I'm like, it's a box. How hard could it be? We learned a lot. So I'd love to ask you, what kind of qualities do you think a municipal leader should have?
Determination. I know it's not always going to be easy. There will be difficult questions, difficult decisions, and not everybody's going to agree with you, but you need to be determined. Um, and I definitely think approachability is one of the biggest ones as well. It's you need to be out there, you need to be seen, you need to be heard, you need to be able to be found, I guess, be the best way to describe it. Um, and problem solving skills. There's going to be a lot of different problems, a lot of different solutions, and it's about finding the best solution for our community.
So you mentioned determination, 100% agree. You've got to really want it and you're going to have to work for it. And from personal experience, having been at that table, it is definitely not always easy. Approachability, absolutely, right? Like you don't want a counselor that you're scared to you're scared to talk to. People will come up to you in Foodland on Main Street in the park. They're going to bring you, their questions or their concerns and problem solving. And that can look different depending on the issue that you're dealing with, right? Like maybe someone comes to you with a problem. You might have to research it first, right? It might take a little bit of time, but you don't leave them hanging.
Definitely. In that kind of situation, I definitely take their phone number and tell them I would get back to them. Like it matters to them, it should matter to you.
Now, being approachable, sometimes people are going to approach you and they're going to be mad and they're going to be angry and they're going to be incoherent in whatever argument that they're trying to make to you. And I can promise you, whether you're elected or not, if you maintain any kind of position of authority or leadership in the community, it's going to happen. Um, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to react to someone that's coming at you, whether in person or even online, you know, that just really they're angry and they want to vent.
Honestly, let them vent for a little bit and try to break it down what they're frustrated with. I've had one person actually message me like that, and I gave them a few minutes and then I broke it down and I tried to give the best answer I could to the solution. Like sometimes you won't have the best answer for them, but you can always follow up later.
And some people just can't be pleased. I learned that I am a people pleaser. I want people to be happy. I want to, do the best work. And then sometimes you're just going to be like, you know what, maybe come back to me in like a week. And we'll
Yeah,
see how you're feeling about this. I know with hockey we have the 24-hour rule, which is basically before you say anything, before you complain, you sleep on it.
definitely. That's a good rule.
I feel like it's a good rule and I feel like it mitigates a lot of that emotion, right? Because and I had said this quote too before in the interviews. The famous Leslie Knope of Parks and Rec said, you know, when people are yelling at me, all I hear is that they're caring loudly. And it's true, you know?
Very true.
Still doesn't negate the fact that we're not getting anywhere if we're just yelling at each other. But 24-hour rule, sleep on it, you know, come back to it. But I like that you would, receive that calmly and, kind of deal with it as best you can. Um, so you're clearly employed. I am not sure if it's like full-time or part-time hours. Um, I know the pay for councils is not amazing, and people expect you to be available 24/7 for some reason. When I was on council, I made 5,500 bucks a year.
Oh, wow.
My childcare was like 10
Yeah,
grand. I was like, I'm doing this volunteer, right? And I'm happy now that they've upped the pay for counselors and mayor because I feel like if you want these people to treat it as a full-time responsibility, you gotta be paying for them. But I'd love to hear, do you have like plans for that kind of balance and also how to set those boundaries? And this is a conversation I've had with everybody about the boundaries because I feel like it's really important that you're a human, and you have a tiny human that is 4 years old. You have a life, you have hobbies. You maybe when people are campaigning, they're going to say, I'm gonna live and breathe this, be available 100% of the time. That's a lie. Take your breaks. But I would love to hear how you feel you're going to set up, your schedule or your days to be available, but also respect your own space.
definitely, because it's not realistic to be available 24/7. I believe in a 24-hour rule. At the minimum, getting back to you within 24 hours, at least acknowledging and telling them that you're working on the issue and trying to find a solution. I don't really believe in hard cutoff times. I feel like as a counselor, I know you can't be available full time, but you should be available most hours. Not everybody works the normal 9 to 5 job. Some people work nights, some people don't work at all, and you should be available in a broad range of time. That's why I really like the idea of being somewhere at least twice a month, where people know where you are and do different times throughout the month so that you're accessible to everybody.
I like that you consider the different times because when I served on council, we had two meetings a month. One was at noon and one was in the evening. And it just kind of gave us that little bit of balance. Like for me, noon was difficult because I was young and had kids, but I made it work. And then the evening was a bit easier. And then for other people, the evening, was harder and didn't matter. But we tried to be as accommodating as we can because it's true, not everybody works, 9 to 5. And some people work overnight, which is ridiculous to me because I'm a morning person. Like I'm not up past 8.
Definitely. I've done it before and it sucked. And I completely understand what it's like. You feel disconnected when you work those shifts.
Absolutely. So let's move into accountability. I feel like you mentioned approachability, and that reminded me of accountability. But sometimes you're going to make a bad call or a decision. It's going to happen. We're human. But what do you think is the difference between like a healthy accountability and, like harmful public criticism? Because you're going to be asked to be accountable for that decision. I want to hear how you would react, but also where's that line for you between accountability and just like criticism?
That's a hard one. I believe everyone should own their decisions, good or bad. You own it and you try to explain it to the best of your ability. I know there'll be mistakes. We're all human. It happens. It's more difficult trying to define between criticism and valid uh valid concerns. But it's again, it's more of come back to it later if you have to. After you thoroughly look through it. Like if I made a bad decision, I would own it and I would tell people exactly why I did it. We all learn. We're not perfect.
The accountability part, I find some people still struggle with that, which I mean, it's hard. Like, it's hard when you make a decision and you look back and you're like, oh, that was a bad decision. And you can make excuses. You can be like, I didn't have good information at that time, or I did this. And excuses can also sometimes be valid, but the outcome is still the same. You made a decision and you kind of have to live with it. So I feel like that's very important for you to say that, you kind of sleep on it, admit that admit that you were wrong,
Wrong.
and say how you're going to do better. Those are all really important things. I live by the rule, ask before you accuse, because people are very, very quick to jump on you without approaching the situation with even a little bit of curiosity. And I know I said that in the intro, that like curiosity is just so important because I really like to believe that everyone, even people I don't like, are making decisions with the best information that they have based on context that I don't know and with the intention of something working out, you know?
Yeah, it definitely need to explain your side. That's my belief. And mistakes happen.
What role do you feel like then, um, as a leader in the community, do you have to demonstrate, this kind of healthy accountability, this healthy curiosity?
One thing I thought about was during council meetings, explaining what you're doing after. Explain exactly what happened, what you did, what you voted on, so that people better understand what you're representing. And if people have concerns with that, to reach out and voice their concerns. Because at the end of the day, you represent the people that voted you. That's the main thing.
What I'm hearing is you're saying almost just be upfront, kind of answer the questions before people even have them. And I feel like that's a really effective method. You don't want to over explain everything because most people don't care about a lot of like some of the decisions are like, I don't care which guy you go with when it comes to my garbage pickup as long as my garbage is picked up. That kind of
Yeah.
deal. So I'm going to dig a little bit more on this because I feel like it's a really important question is what role do you feel like municipal leaders play in shaping how we treat each other in the community? Because we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier where, we're just seeing, neighbors fighting, people not agreeing. You're seeing that polarization. And in my opinion, every leader is in a position and has that opportunity to just demonstrate what it looks like to be good neighbors, to be involved in your community. Um, what role do you think that you would play as a counselor when it comes to that?
I feel like as a counselor, you should be at least a mediator and an ambassador for people. So if there's people fighting, having squabbles over things, take them aside, talk it through, and see what the main issue is. It could be something really small and very easily solvable. It's about bringing the communities together and finding like answers for them.
Sometimes it takes that outside view, right? Like that 1,000 foot overview of what's going on to really understand, like, wow, this is actually a small problem. Or maybe we actually agree, we're just going at it from, different angles. So I appreciate that you mentioned mediator too, because that to me says there's conversation happening, right? Like there's understanding happening from both parties. I think that's really cool. Um, so you'd mentioned you'd want to, kind of communicate those decisions and that rationale. How would you plan on doing that? Would that be something your regular, coffee meets? Do you have like a blog? Is it in minutes in writing? Like what would be the way you communicate that?
Definitely the coffee meetups. I have a Facebook page. I'd post there as well. I would post in any groups that we can. And then I would like to find another way of getting across the council meetings. I know some cities live stream them. I would like to explore that as well, so that because I know this when I was at the meetings, I was the only one observing. Um, and I know it's not that important to some people, but it's important to be transparent and that people know what's going on in their community. I know the current council posts minutes and the agenda online on the website, um, but we need to spread it out. We have social media. It's an amazing tool, and we can reach more people with that, letting people know what's going on in their community.
So you were also a fellow weirdo that would just show up at council meetings just to see
Yes.
what's going on. I love meeting another like geek because first time I showed up at council, actually Jerry Gogan, the previous mayor, had had mentioned like you should come and sit in on council, and I did, and they looked at me like I had three heads because here's this like 25-year-old sitting there with her little notebook, and they're like, "Oh, so what's the issue you want to bring?" I'm like, "No, I just want to see how this works and meet you guys." And yeah, they looked at me like I had three heads. People, your democracy, it's accessible to you. You can go to these meetings, and sure, sometimes they're really not that exciting, but the more exciting part is that you have a group of people that were elected by a bigger group of people to help make the decisions that actually impact your life. So I appreciate that you went to council meetings
Yeah.
before.
The funny thing is the first one I went to, they thought I was a reporter. I'm assuming because not many people go, but I feel like we really need to work on engagement with people.
I think that's wonderful. And should council want to continue these interviews afterwards, I'm happy to do one once a month and talk about what's been going on. So there's my pitch for my, I guess, unofficial YouTube podcast, whatever you want to call this. I'm just happy to help get the information out. Um,
Be cool, actually. Now that you mentioned it,
hey,
that would be a good idea. Every month, talk
you
about
heard it
issues.
here first. You heard it here first. That's great. So I think I've gone through any of the questions that I want to ask you, but you have this platform. Is there something else you wanted to cover or a specific issue or topic that we didn't get to that you want to speak about?
Not off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Perfect. So we did a great job covering most everything.
Yeah.
Love it. So let's move in then to the little lightning round, quick, non-politics related questions. I would love to hear about your favorite place in the community.
The favorite place. Honestly, it would have to be the Mapleton Trails. I love like I said, I grew up going out there with my grandparents. They live just down the road from Mapleton Trails. Being out with nature. I'm hoping that my son's finally old enough to start walking around there now and bring him out and see nature. I love that stuff.
I haven't made it out there yet, but I do remember, and maybe you can refresh my memory, when I think it was the Alga and Association went and actually bought that land. I think it was private before. There was a whole story, and a whole bunch of people got together and made it happen.
I think so. And now there's apparently there's a bike trail and there's other trails there as well. Love to explore.
Shout out again, Alganico Association. I
Yeah.
think they've been mentioned in every little interview, which is amazing because they do awesome work. So shout out to them. Now, maybe you could tell me about the best hidden gem in the community. So maybe like a little area tucked away somewhere, or the best coffee somewhere.
Honestly, I'm gonna say the Tims. I know it's not hidden, but I noticed last Saturday everyone was coming through. A lot of people were coming through on their ways out to the trails, to on their bikes. And I feel like as a counselor, you should really be out there and meeting people. Like it was packed in that Tim's.
It sounds to me like the hidden gem is like that unexpected connection that you
Yeah.
find in, a chain coffee place.
Yeah. I didn't expect it, to be honest.
That's so cool. That's a good answer. And now, important question, who are you rooting for in the Stanley Cup Finals?
I'll be honest, it was the Oilers. Didn't do too great, but definitely the Habs. My wife will not like the answer to that. She's a Leafs fan, but I like the Habs.
That's great because it's a Canadian team, right? I live in a family of Leafs fans. I am a Senators fan personally. So like I understand that weird Leafs, like, I don't care if we suck and we've sucked for years. I am still on there like that dedication. Like that says something about a person, I think. When I hear they're a Leafs fan, my first thought is, oh, sorry about that. Second thought is, you know, you are a determined individual.
Definitely. They have had some rough years.
Just a few.
A
Oh, that's
few.
great. Um, so unless there's anything else that you want to add, maybe do you want like closing words or anything like that?
No, no, I'm good.
Perfect. So thank you so much for your time. It is afternoon. I know these videos, I get them up as quick as I can, but the time of recording, we're in the afternoon You're on a lunch break. I appreciate that you made the time for this interview, and I really hope that people have learned something new, and I encourage them to reach out to you. So thank you so much for your time.
So thank you as well for the opportunity, and I hope we talk soon.